Hey kids, welcome back to the CFL Outsider, Episode 7. Take a walk off on the wild side. I remain, as ever, your totally jubilant, incredibly cool host and presenter, old man shouting at clouds. Jubilant because 3 or 4 games on the weekend were walk-off field goals, including an overtime one. And the last one was still not a bad game at all. Plus, I went 4-0 in Pick'em, so hey, very cool. But the cool part I'm talking about is a different thing. I'm actually cool as in not overly hot. Because unfortunately, we had some issues at Old Man's house this last weekend. Friday before a long weekend, air conditioner conks out. Now, it's not a hard fix. It's basically needed a capacitor and a contactor. But try and get them on a weekend, a long weekend. So 4 days of fairly sweltering weather until I got it put back and up and running yesterday. Looking forward to it because at least it wasn't that bad. It was raining and like 26, 27. But this week coming up, they're saying, I think tomorrow is 30 and like high 30s by the weekend. So real glad to have that up and running. I am going to just take a moment here to let you folks know, pull back the curtain. As you can probably tell, I'm new at this. I haven't been doing it very long at all. I've got background of speaking to people in crowds and from stage and stuff, but it's been a long time ago. And basically, the reason I'm doing this, as I said a couple of times before, is that there's some stuff that I feel like doesn't get talked about in CFL circles, so I'm trying to throw it out there. But more importantly than that, I retired a little while back, and frankly found that, real first world problem, cliche, I had, besides family and friends, I had nothing I was interested in doing. I'd been filling my time with work that I loved, but now it was gone. So I ended up just sitting around, and sitting around killing time was killing me. And then I thought one day, after actually credit where it's due, after listening to Two and Out with Travis and Sheldon and Ty from back in the day, I thought, geez, that sounds easy. Maybe I'll do that. I like the CFL. I'm already spending a good chunk of my week following all this stuff. Maybe I'll put it out there. So I gave it a shot, and turns out it ain't easy. It's hard as hell, and and the pros make it look easy, so shout out to them. But I'm enjoying it. And I'm learning as I go, and I'm learning a lot of things, and I'm actually excited about doing stuff again. So this is for me as much as for anyone else. I'd love to grow up an audience, and if you can help me with that at all, super. So maybe one thing you can definitely do is send me some, either put comments in or send some email here to, just give me feedback. Let me know what you like. I'm open to constructive criticism. Let me know what you don't like. I'll try and I'll use that as part of my stuff going ahead. But for right now, I'm having the best time I've had in quite a while. So we're going to keep trying this. Now, I have been doing some self-scouting, and as you've seen if you've watched this over the last few weeks, I'm changing the format up a little bit better, starting to get the tone and voice that I want for it. That's my way of doing stuff. I tend to dive in head first and then figure it out as I go. So hopefully it's getting better. Hopefully you're enjoying it a lot more than that. I did notice one thing on the self-scouting is I had no idea how much I kind of like fidgeted and just, when I'm talking and all, and just I don't know. So anyway, I'm going to try and stop that. Keep watch for now. See if I can, once I actually get into the talk and hear if I can make that happen or not. Okay, so yeah, please leave some comments. Let me know, and that. My rant this week, I try to stay away from things that are out there. If everybody else is talking about it, why should I? You've heard it for 5, 6, a dozen times maybe. What's the value in me putting it out there? So I try to go for things that maybe aren't being spoken so much. But this week I got to talk about one that's been in the news a whole lot. I have to talk about Randy Ambrosie and the story of the kickers. Commissioner Ambrosi went on record saying the kickers embarrassed the league when they went public with their concerns about the chip balls. He said they had nothing to do with the decision to remove the chip balls. That was all letters from presidents. Now that may be true, but did anyone tell the kickers then that going into the season, live action starting, that it was under review? I don't think so. Or are you saying that the letters came in between the time that Castillo spoke out and you changed the rule the next morning? Because that seems like a heck of a coincidence. And I don't know if you're a fan of NCIS and Leroy Jethro Gibbs, but he's got a couple of rules. He's got a bunch of rules, and the two important ones, 91, when you walk away, don't look back. Doesn't apply here, but Jones should have remembered it with the Eskimos. 39, though, is there are no coincidences. So I'm thinking Commissioner Ambrosi has stepped in a big steaming pile of spin. And on top of that, as the folks over at Tune Out pointed out, kickers were embarrassing, even though they had tried to go through the proper channels and were being ignored. But the Ambrosi has never called the Chad Kelly thing embarrassing. They, like I said, stole that from Tune Out, so credit where it's due. But that's a very good point. It's some skewed priorities there, and that's all I'm going to say about it. So let's move on to game 1 of the week. Edmonton at BC. Game 2 of BC's OFR tour. Last week they had Winnipeg at 0-2 and they took them to 0-3. This week Edmonton at 0-3 and they took them to 0-4. Or sorry, go back on that. 2 weeks ago, Winnipeg 0-2, they took them to 0-3. Last week, Edmonton 0-3 took them to 0-4. This week they've got Hamilton 0-4, thinking they take them to 0-5. That was what I did on the pick'em. Anyway, but that's, for whatever it's worth, that's where they're at. So my thoughts from the game here. Well, Enoch, I think is doing a great job on the panel, and him and Milt have charisma and chemistry and really work well together. I'm not even concerned that there's not a third person on the Sunday night stuff, because that's incredible. But I know Enoch did make a rookie mistake in the panel. I gotta driving having done some roadie and lighting and work in the past, you had to be driving them crazy because he wore this shiny little tie clip. Every now and then you just get this flash. It wasn't on for the rest of the week. That was only on Thursday. The rest of the weekend he didn't have it, so I'm thinking it's been straightened out. I wanted to mention that Renee Snack. I'm hoping that you guys have seen the games, or the highlights at least, before you come here. So in the game, the sack that linebacker, I think believe he's playing the strong side linebacker, Renee, put on MBT. Oh my, that is football. That was a good, clean, solid hit out of nowhere. It's one of those hits that you kind of, so if you're near it on the field, you kind of go, oh, I just don't even want to see that. But it was clean and it was legal, and I swear, I think MBT got up looking for the number of the truck that had hit him, because that was nasty. Now, at halftime, they were talking about honoring Ricky Ray the following night in the Toronto game. And Milt made the statement that Ricky Ray was top 4 all-time CFL quarterbacks. And I'm not sure, really. Are you sure? Because I'm not going to, gotta do that. I'm not going to even go back to like the time of Lancaster and Russ Jackson, because it was a different game and you can't really compare them now. But within sort of the more modern era, there's Moon, there's Calvillo, Damon Allen, Maddie from the panel there, Tracy Ham, Doug Flutie. That's like 6 more that I think could be in the top 4. So Ricky Ray is good. And yes, he's got more yardage and he's got stuff with 2 teams and all of that, but that's because he stuck around. Some of the others like Moon and Flutie and that didn't stay as long, but they were still phenomenal stuff. So I'll accept Ricky Ray in the top 7 unless I think of something else, but that seems about right. we also had stuff in this game where, again, on a goal line stand, defense was offside. You know, and I know everybody talks about there's a white line right there, just stay behind it. Goal line stand. It happens. It happens probably 1 out of every 4 times that there's a stand like that. And what I don't get is, back in the day, way back, like I said, shortly after leather helmets, and it was high school football, I was playing in that, but we had a guy who was responsible for that. I was playing MAC. So I was responsible for that, checking and making sure everybody was a yard off the line when we were down in goal line. Why doesn't the professional team do that? These are professional athletes. You shouldn't have to check on them. Yeah, but you shouldn't have to take penalties when it kills you too. So just do that. Go back to a basic sort of thing. And if they feel disrespected, say fine. You know, we go through the season with no offsides, maybe we'll revisit this. But just, it's so easy to fix. I didn't catch the number of the player, but there was an Edmonton player who made a really stupid play. A punt. Edmonton punted down into the end zone. The BC receiver conceded the single, took a knee, went to get back up. Edmonton player came, shoved him in the chest, boom. Should have been an unnecessary roughness. It wasn't. He got away with it. But then they showed on the sidelines on TSN that when he gets to the edge of where Jones is, Jones starts laying into him and just tearing a strip off him. And so he walks right past Jones, doesn't acknowledge him, walks in front of the line of players that got all milling on the sidelines. And Jones doesn't give up. He walks behind it, and for like 10 seconds, just screaming his head off at the guy through all the players there. And I thought, oh yeah, that's a good role model. That's what we want as the kids to see. We want that 12-year-old who's thinking, I might want to play some football. That looks like a fun game. And then seeing that and going, well, maybe not. I don't want to get yelled at like that. You know, yelling is not good coaching. I get you're frustrated. I get your job's on the line. I get that nothing is working. But yelling doesn't fix anything. Positive reinforcement, correcting things, and frankly, if things aren't getting fixed, then you have a tough, rational conversation. Forget about yelling. I've also noticed now, I don't know if I've said this before, but Edmonton is actually playing very well. They're the best 0-4 team in decades, frankly, but they're just tightening up at the end. The last quarter, especially the last 5 minutes of the game, it's like they've played well enough to be in it and to win, and now they're just so afraid of that slipping away that they're trying to do too much, trying to do too big of a job, and so they're fumbling, or they're throwing interceptions, or they're taking penalties just because they're so badly needing a win. And then you get on top of that the fact that MBT, and if you look at his record, he does really well when there's not a lot of pressure on him. And I don't mean rushing the passer, sacking pressure. I mean pressure to win games. If you look back to his time in Toronto, most of that time, the starting role was kind of in flux. You didn't know what was going on. And so he seemed to feel like he had to get winning early in games. And he was terrible in the first half of all the games. The other team would get a good enough lead. He'd go into halftime. Now the chances of him actually coming back were almost impossible, and he'd relax and start airing it out and be the king of garbage time. You know, now we have a reverse situation in Edmonton. He's got no threat of being replaced. Jones, for whatever reason, refuses to put Trey Ford in. You know, so he's going in relaxed, and he's looking good for 3/4 of a game. Oh, look at this, I'm good now and everything. But I know I got to win this game. And then it gets into that fourth quarter and late in the fourth quarter, and he's rushing and making terrible decisions and making the mistakes that cost them the game. So he's a player that's just a quarterback that ties into this locking up late, freezing and making mistakes. And it's Jones's decision, but I still don't know about him being a help to the team. I will notice too. I thought if you wanted to see what the difference in the teams, where that was at there, all you had to do was look at the shots they gave on TSN when the game was over and the coaches were walking off the field. You know, Campbell, Off comes the headset. He's smiling. He's just kind of wandering around. It's another day at the office. Hey, the weekend's here. Not bad. Whereas Jones is just looking sick to his stomach. And I don't blame him. I mean, how are you supposed to... I don't know how he's supposed to win. I don't know if he's going to be around anyway, but I heard that, in fact, that Campbell was so... feeling so light and happy that he went into the players' press conferences afterwards and started asking them joking questions and helping out. So that's a team that's loose. And I do say, my only thought on it is, if this is going to go on, you've got to do something for the fans. We're 3 days into this Edmonton's bye week and there's no news, so I don't think the coaching change is happening. Why not put Trey out there? I can guarantee you this. I think you'll get more fans in the stands. People will be happier losing with Trey and watching him improve than they are losing with MBT and watching nothing change. All right, that's it for there. Game 2, Montreal at Toronto. Got that one backwards. The theme here is basically new season, same results. Now I'm going to start out with something, talking about the panel and talking about Kate Burness, because she has been an incredible addition as the host of the panel. She brings excitement. She brings a genuine energy. She riffs with the others. She's building the chemistry of the whole set. She's a very professional presenter. She stays on top of all of her stuff, and if she makes a flub, she just plays into the whole thing, and it's fine. So I have all kinds of respect for her in the job she does, and just, I'm glad she's part of the panel. I'd also like to add, and this is a compliment, but I'm afraid it's the kind of thing that might get you canceled. I don't know. I don't know if it's okay to say this, but they had just a shot of her introducing a segment standing up in front of the big screen there wearing this black dress, and she looked amazing. Just wow! What the British might say is right fit, and she reminded me I might be an old man, but I'm not dead. Please, I hope that's not I'm not allowed to say that because it is meant as a compliment. Amazing. If you're still listening, I guess the next thing would be I thought that they'd changed the rule on roughing the passer so that if you finished a sack by landing your full body weight on the passer, that was a penalty. Have they changed that? Or was it just more of the officiating chaos on Friday night with this game? Because there were at least two where, to me, they should have been called. They weren't. Command center didn't jump in. Don't know why they don't jump into... Why they jump in on some things and don't on others. I never quite understand it. But anyway, that's, yeah. I got to say, I love me some dribble kick. I know that there are people who say it shouldn't be in the game, that it doesn't make any sense. The CFL should have got rid of it. I love it. And it's not a cheap play. I'll talk later about a cheap play and maybe contrast it and that. But this is just using your smarts in the football game. And Enoch did a good job of explaining that it's working because teams are going to, in those long yard situations, a cover 4 where they're making sure they just don't give up anything deep and they're not keeping anyone at all close. So you put a play in like that. You don't get rid of the rule. You leave that rule in there because it makes the defenses more honest. They've got to have somebody up spying on that, which takes them out of the cover 4 and maybe makes the big play better, maybe not. But that's what the offense is supposed to do, and the defenses have to learn how to counter it. So don't take it out just because it's causing problems for defenses. I heard Suits on the CKRM yesterday saying, when a defense has worked that hard to get a team into 1st and 20, they should be rewarded. You shouldn't give them up something. Well, if they work that hard, maybe they've got sacks, maybe it's a holding penalty. I don't know. But their job is to stop the plays that are in the rule book. So stop them. And don't complain if you can't. I love Jason Moss's cojones on some of the stuff he does. He does a lot of the trick plays in this last one where 3rd and 1 and he goes for a touchdown pass from Caleb Evans. That's football. That's good job. You know, I've got to say to Coach Moss, when you're in Ottawa, Edmonton, and frankly Saskatchewan, I had my doubts about your capabilities. But it's obvious you've found your spot now, and you've got this team going, and you're doing the right things. And I think being aggressive, being brave like that is part of that team's nature. So good on you. Also thought about the fact that, you know, a lot of the Owls are getting really good at drafting defensive linemen. Last year they had, I think it was Luau Ujilak. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm sorry if I've butchered it. But anyway, he came in, played a great year for them, and is now down in the NFL. No problem. They just go out and draft Isaac Ademe Berglund, who, looking from the way he looked in last night's game, could be NFL bound in a year or two himself. I thought the Toronto touchdown at the very end there, the garbage time one, was probably a wash on fantasy. I mean, I can't imagine a lot of people had Scott at quarterback or even Polk at receiver. So I don't think that probably gained much of an advantage for anyone. And a last thought, just for the Argos, male cheerleaders, they're just wrong. Just stop doing it. Game 3, Winnipeg at Calgary. The Strev giveth, and the Strev taketh away. We'll talk about that towards the end of the game. Yeah, you probably know what I'm talking about if you've seen it. But again, thoughts that occurred to me. The Bombers and the Riders did it in free agency, but basically they traded right tackles. Yoshi Hardrick went over to the Riders, and Eric Lofton went to the Bombers. And if you looked at how Eric Lofton's been playing on that side, and how Yoshi's been just dominating in Saskatchewan and leading that whole line, I'd say that the Riders won that faux trade in big time. And TSN, I know I've said this before, and I don't want to keep ranting about the same stuff, but enough with the in-game interviews. I don't care if they're on the sideline or up in the booth. There's a game going on. We're watching it, we're trying to listen to the commentators, and we're trying to follow the flow of the game. Now you bring in these interviews, and it just messes stuff up. Yeah, we can still watch the play on the field, but then we're not listening to what's being said in the interview anyway, if we're really interested in it. And frankly, it's bad enough when they're doing it with ex-CFL stars and stuff that I do want to hear what they're saying. So that's why I want you to move it to halftime so I can pay attention to what they're saying. But really, in Calgary, you do it to promote a local women's soccer team? Just again, stop it. If you have to do that, halftime. Cut your halftime show down a little bit. You can afford to do that. Don't worry about how much you're paying your hosts. They do a great job, or the panel. They're doing a great job on it all. They can afford to give up a little bit of time for this stuff, where frankly, you know, those that want to hear it are going to hear it. Those that don't are either going to be off to the washroom, or if they've recorded it, they're fast forwarding through it, and there's no loss. Another thought, forget Where's Waldo. Let's start playing Where's Willie. I mean, really, he had a couple of knockdowns in this game, which were helpful, but at the end, he's been invisible. He looks like I saw against BA, he was soft playing, not pushing hard, keeping BA in the pocket. I get that. But against Mayor's not going to scramble. And if he does, he's not going to do well at it. And yet, Willie was still hanging back, so what's up there? Anyway. I don't know how many people noticed just how badly Mayer was locking in on receivers in the game. That probably had a bit to do with his accuracy issues too, but he was staring them down, and once he'd made his decision, you weren't going to change it. There was a play at the end of the first half there where he tried to go to Bagleton in triple coverage, and over on the other side, I didn't catch the number, probably Michelle, was streaking wide open towards the end zone, and yet he's trying to force it into Bagleton. So the hit that I think, how do you pronounce the guy's name? Courtney, I think it is, the D lineman put on Zach. My first thought, I saw that live and I thought, oh, there should have been a flag. Oh, that young man's going to be getting a big fine for spearing. But then they showed a replay from the other angle, and as much as it looked at first like it was all on, that it was a spear, from the other side you could see he would played it perfect, never even hit his chest with the helmet. Came in leading with it, but slipped it at the last moment, and it was pure shoulder, a legal hit. Don't know how bad Zach is hurt, but that's part of the game, and and that was nice. Hope Zach's okay, but that was pretty. Like I said, Mayer was having accuracy troubles, and I thought, well, that's not going to do well for the game. And then Zach went out, and Strev came in, and frankly made Mayer look like Hawkeye. So the game slowed down quite a bit like that. At three-quarter time, Suits in their little break between quarters called it a defensive struggle, and I thought, really? I guess that's kind of the defenses, but I'd say more just bad offense. But hey, Castillo made a 60-yard field goal, club record 60-yard field goal. I'm assuming there was no chip in that ball. And then this, like I said, Strev giveth, Strev taketh away. The last drive, he finally starts putting it together. He makes some passes. They look not bad. He drives them down. Now, again, it's against a prevent defense that's designed to prevent winning. And twice this week that showed up. But he did it. He got down there, put them in the end zone. They go into overtime. His first series in overtime, he tosses just an absolute duck. I have no idea where it was supposed to be going or what he saw, but flapping around up there until so Mario Houston could spend about 10 minutes circling under it and finally pick it off. And then all Calgary has to do is kick a field goal to win the game. Yeah, I don't know. I hope Zach's okay. And just a last thought to Brady Oliveira. Young man, you made a big, nasty statement before the game about how you had to be used more if they would just give you the rock that you could make a difference. I applaud that initiative, but to follow it up with a 2.6-yard average, teams can't afford to take. It's not four-down football. We can't take 4 downs to get a first down with the running back. You need to, if you're going to step up and make your claims, then you got to step up and back them up. That wasn't too good. Which moves us on to the last game of the weekend, and possibly the most exciting one. Hamilton at Ottawa. Yeah. Welcome to the CFL. 3 lead changes in the last 3 minutes. Seriously. I took a look at this here. Where did I have this? Yeah, 3 lead changes. So at 2:04, 2 minutes and 4 seconds left in the game, Hamilton was leading 16-15. At 2 minutes left in the game, Ottawa was leading 21-16. 28 seconds left in the game, Hamilton is leading 22-21. And when the clock stops, it's 24-22 for Ottawa. Amazing. And, it didn't start out great. Hamilton got that fumble return and got a touchdown in basically pretty much within the first minute of the game or so. And I think a minute and a bit, but an easy one. But then it slowed down. Ottawa did some marching, got some scoring and whatnot. I was wondering in the first quarter, once they got past that touchdown and came out into the regular offense, why Hamilton's talking all year about how they had to get new receivers, bigger, taller receivers. That was what they wanted. And wondering in that first half, why is that when Bo's just throwing the ball into the ground at their feet anyway? It seemed like the height is a detriment there. And then, of course, later on, it looked like I saw why they got them, because then he did start throwing high, but they didn't get them tall enough. They would have needed like 8-foot receivers to catch a lot of the ones that he had, and with a incredible vertical too. So, not sure their player scheme is working with the quarterback's talent. But hey, they got Tim White going, eh? He sure did. That fantastic catch, and they were using him everywhere. Punt return, kick return. There's old DA rule we'll talk about in a minute. So they got him going. They did. Now what? 0-4 still. Now, I know too that complaining about the control center is just way too easy. So I'm trying to get off of that. They, like I said, it's part of the chaos of the game. They just don't get things done. But I do say, I wonder, like you saw in that game, 2 different challenges on PI. One from Ottawa saying there was PI when it wasn't called on the field. One from Hamilton saying there wasn't PI when it was called on the field. Both of them looked like fairly close, fairly identical, hand-fighting type plays. The one in the end zone for that Hamilton got called on them was tugging on the neck of the jersey, holding the receiver down. But that apparently wasn't PI. It just seemed to be some inconsistencies in what was going on there. And then on top of that, there was, pyramiding on that final field goal that they never called. And you might say, oh, the game was over, so they didn't have to call it. But how do we know you didn't just miss it? Like, show us that you're competent refs. And my last thing, and this is the one where I'll contrast to Montreal and Montreal's dribble kick. Like I said, it's a great play. It's in the rule books. It's fair. The defense now knows you can do it. It's up to them to stop it. There's nothing wrong with that. That's football. What is lack of class is what happened in this game with Milanovic. He's trying to take us back. I don't know how many of you remember, but we had, when they first started doing the officiating, or the eye in the sky, the control center replay, and they opened it up to both interference and illegal contact. Every time there was a long play, the other team would start looking for an illegal contact somewhere across the field, didn't have anything to do with it, and they'd find one, because there is one that you can call on almost every play. The refs wouldn't call it because it didn't affect the play. They go to the command center, and the command center would look at it and say, well, by the rule, that's a penalty. So it slowed down the game. It took away all the exciting big play stuff. It was horrendous for it. And their answer was to take the illegal contact out. It was a great answer. It worked for 7, 8 years now, I think. I can't remember when that went on. But now Milanovic has found another one. Blocking downfield after I think it was a 40 or 50 yard Ottawa pass. He finds someone who's a little bit downfield blocking and challenges it. Nothing to do with the play, on the complete other side of the field. And yet the command center, well, that's according to the rules, that's an infraction, we have to call it. Even though you use discretion on so much other stuff. Anyway, I don't want this game to devolve into that sort of boring, challenge anything stuff that it was years ago. So the CFL has to fix it. Now they might say, okay, well then we won't say you can challenge blocking downfield, but maybe there's times when you should be able to challenge that. I think the fix is easy. First of all, you got to make it harder on the coaches to do those fishing expeditions. So if you make a challenge and lose it, it's not a timeout. It's a 15-yard penalty on the field. That's going to catch their attention, and they're going to be a lot more sure rather than just go fishing. And then to go along with that, you tell the command center specifically, if something is challenged away from the play that has no effect on how the play came out, you just ignore it. You say, no, that was not a penalty. Just like the refs do on the field. And that'll clear it up in a hurry. Because please, if you remember what it was like, we do not want that again. What else do I have? Oh yeah, the Hamilton DBs. I'm sure you've heard the old expression, if you've been in football very long, DBs are just receivers who can't catch. Well, the Hamilton DBs were kind of living up to that in this game. I think they dropped 3 or 4, but should have been fairly easy interceptions. But again, there may be a reason for that. Yeah. Now, this was the first time that the DA, Designated American Rule, was even mentioned, and so I don't think it's having a big effect. And even then, TSN managed to botch it. I understand it's complicated that, but they were at one point with about 5 minutes left. The ref went over and talked to Milanovic, and TSN told us that he was a designated American and he was only allowed to play 5 more plays. And then the game went on, and if you counted, he played a lot more than 5 more plays. Well, maybe not a lot more. I think it was about 8 or 9 plays altogether that he was in on. And it turns out that that was legal because he had 5 more plays that he couldn't. When he was going in to replace a Canadian as a designated American, they had 1 less Canadian on the field. That was legal. He had 5 more plays of that left. He could go in as an American receiver as long as they had their full complement of Canadians on the field as much as he wanted. And so that's why that was confusing. But the good point is they were on top of it. They were actually counting the snaps, and they knew where he was at, and it didn't really affect the game other than confusing us a bit. I gotta say, the old coach in me was cringing and sputtering and cursing when Ottawa running back Armstead with going in just before the 3-minute warning. That's a 1-point ball game. They're going down to close to into Edmonton, Hamilton's end. He give him the ball. He gets a great run. I think it was like 10, maybe 13, 14 yards. Big pickup they needed then, contributed to the touchdown. But he's carrying the ball out there like a loaf of bread. Luckily, it didn't hurt him. And either he realized what he was doing or someone talked to him during the 3-minute warning, because his other carries from then on, as soon as he was close to contact, it was a 2-hand wrap up. So, we all make mistakes. Luckily, it turned out okay. Also noticed that Bo went 58 minutes and 20 seconds between touchdowns. Got that first one after the fumble where they got it on the 30. Ottawa was kind of shell-shocked. An easy pass into the end zone. And then he got one in prevent, playing against prevent defense, which again, prevents you from winning. And they made it easy, and he got that. But in between in that 58 minutes and 20 seconds, it was mostly between the 20s. He managed to get them in range for 3 field goals, and that was it. So I don't think that's going to win games. I keep hearing people say, Hamilton's a great team. They just got to get Bo going. They just got to get Tim White going. They just got to do this. I don't think so. I don't see it. They're playing in the East Division, which makes them a little easier to get their stuff together. But I don't know. Unless something changes drastically, I don't see them making the playoffs. I think that they're going to be more frustrated and slide further as they go along. And I think Ottawa's picking up some real momentum, starting to believe in themselves. So yeah, we'll see how that all goes. And what I said about the DBs dropping balls, it felt to me, and I had no skin in this game other than I picked Ottawa and pick them, and gave me 4-0 if they won, which I was kind of like that. But I really had no skin in this game at all, and I still thought the officiating was terrible, and they did their best to give the game to Hamilton. But the football gods seemed to disagree. So I don't know, maybe they just gave a little puff of wind on some of those balls that got near the DBs, and just a little bit to just, not quite make it as easy catch you want. Maybe they just sort of influenced that nice little opening there for the 3-second play at the end of the game that let them get in field goal range and kick the walk-off winner against Hamilton. And it was amazing to watch the fans and the Hamilton fans and the team go from jubilation of, oh, look what we've done, we won it, only 28 seconds, to, oh my God. I understand. Now, I'm not on the socials, so I just hear what I hear from people talking about them, but I understand that there was suddenly a lot of conspiracy theories coming up about the refs trying to give the game to Ottawa. And if you watch that game, you would have to have a biased eye to interpret it that way. I have to agree with Trevor Harris from a few weeks ago when he said, if this doesn't excite you, I can't help you. Man, what a league, what excitement. And that takes care of the game. So we'll just, a couple of maybe some extras just to finish off here. And MBT and Olivier were both bitching over this last week. MBT about the schedule, about how it's all player safe. It's bad. It's not. They don't have any concern for player safety when you play on a 5-week game, and you just schedule it however you want. And so why put us in this thing? And obviously ignoring just how complex scheduling is, and invoking the holy grail of player safety. Well, there have to be, the game is inherently dangerous, inherently risky. And yes, we don't want anyone hurt, and we want to minimize that as much as we can. But there's also a lot of other factors that go into things like a schedule and whatnot. And you have to be able to play to those conditions. Now, I think in both cases, they were doing their bitching basically to take the heat off, or to get people distracted from the fact that they're on 0-3 teams at that time and now 0-4. But still, yeah, it's not so easy to do a schedule. Trust me, I've done some in some leagues, and even there, where you can almost have the fields whenever you want, it's tough to put together. When you start having to figure out what fields are available when, and when most of the CFL fields are sharing with other people, and that, it's ugly. So yeah, if you want to get the attention off your team, that's fine, but don't be calling the CFL Bush League over something like that. The people are way too quick to call it Bush League, and the kicker thing was Bush League, but mostly they get called that for things that are beyond their control, and people should remember that. So yeah, if you want player safety as the main thing you're doing, that your main and only focus, then you just don't play the game. You can't help it. I thought Milt made a nice catch from Kate in the pre-game with on when was that? I think Friday's show. Yeah, and he was with Enoch trying to guard him, give him a little chicken wing to get some room in that. Nice little thing. Given the conditions, I'm wondering how long till the Bombers call him for real this time and say, "Can you come back?" I do wonder who the Rider fans were cheering for in that Bomber Stamps game on the weekend. I mean, there's a lot of hate for both of those teams and fan bases. But they probably were hoping for a 0-0 tie. And then when that option went away, they probably were just enjoying the futility of both teams and feeling a little bit cocky, because at that point, I don't think we'd heard that Trevor was on the 6-game list yet. That's going to be interesting, what we see with what Shea Patterson can do on it. I still went with Sasky in Pick'em, because Toronto's only a 3-point favorite that I saw, which they're on the road, so that's actually a 6-point favorite. Yeah, but Saskatchewan has been stopping the run quite well, and if Toronto can't get the run going, they aren't going to do well. Same thing the other way. I hear Toronto's dressing an extra D lineman to stop Ouellette. I expect that if the Riders can't get the run gang going, they're going to be in some trouble too. But frankly, I've got a lot of faith in the games Mark Mueller has called so far in both the preseason and in the season here. And so I'm betting on him. I think he'll put a package together that Shea Patterson can work. I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any means. I think it's going to be another nail biter, but I expect the Riders will come up with that. Speaking of that, I'm doing the 2 other shows. Old Man plays CFL Pick'em in under a minute, which is just a speed thing. If you want to come and take a look at that and see what my picks are, use them at your own peril. I'm doing well this year. Like I said, 4-0 last week. I've been 3-1 the other 4 weeks, so I think I'm at 13-3 right now. Other 3 weeks, I guess, yeah. So I'm 13-3 right now. I'm happy with that. That's phenomenal for me. And I'm also doing Old Man Plays CFL Fantasy, where I take a little bit longer. And the episode last week wasn't great. I showed you sort of some of what I do. I'm going to change that up a little bit this week. And so try it out and take a look and see if it is of any help to you at all. Now, let's see, what else did I have? Oh, yes, here. Chris Jones, he do love himself some supplemental drafts. Earlier in the year, he gave up an 8th rounder in next year's draft to get, who was the fellow? Antonio Alfano? Again, if I'm mispronouncing that, I apologize. I miss on most names. But anyway, Antonio is a defensive lineman. He's been playing with them, working out not bad. This week, he gave up next year's #1 draft choice for a 6'7" receiver out of, I think it is North Dakota, Zach Mathis. Who knows? I mean, maybe he can help. From what I understand, he's got height but didn't have an impressive college career, but who knows? He's now a Canadian, so helps with the roster. And frankly, Chris Jones may as well roll the dice on these things. He may not be here next year. There's a very good chance of that. So let whoever's there next year worry about the draft picks. You just let him get what he can right now. And I guess that's just about it. So, like I said, check out the other shows if you'd like. CFL Old Man plays CFL Pick'em in under a minute, and Old Man plays CFL Fantasy. Otherwise, come on back here next week again and do all the things. Work your magic, all the stuff that you can do to help send some people this way. It's not huge, but I'm getting up into the into double digits of views, and some people seem to be enjoying it. So please keep doing the stuff, like, rate and review, share and subscribe, leave a comment on the, tell me, I like I said, I've got a thick skin. If I'm doing something that's really annoying, let me know. If I'm doing something that's really great, then let me know that too, because I'll try and refine it and get the show down from there. But yeah, just help me out with this if you don't mind, please. And if you don't want to leave the comment, again, got the email right here, oldman, one word, .shoutingatclouds, one word, @shaw.ca. Send me some feedback there. Let me know what you're thinking with it. And that's about it. So until next week, get the hell off my lawn.